Happy Wednesday, everybody. This is a great time to join us on the show because we are hitting a really exciting season here in Colorado.
Yeah, it's not summer, it's not fall, it's not winter. We don't really get any of those. We get them all at the same time. But what we do get that's really special is film festival season. And what's special about film festival season, Julia, is the marquee event of film festival season, which is, of course, the Denver Film Festival. That's right. So November 2nd to the 13th is now the Denver Film Festival. Today is the day where you can start getting your passes. You can start looking at your lineup, your different events that are going to be happening. They're announcing it right now at the denverfilm.org. That's in the bio. And if you haven't looked, they're looking for volunteers. So maybe if you're young, if you're able-bodied, if you are someone who really loves cinema, maybe this is the time to look and see what you can do as a volunteer at the Denver Film Fest. They are always looking, if you look at denverfilm.volunteers, denverfilm.volunteers, you type that into your computer right now, you will see all sorts of opportunities, and you get free tickets to movies. Who doesn't love free tickets to movies? So today we're talking to someone who's not only been a Denver Film volunteer, they're a excellent filmmaker. We love their movie called This Much. We love This Much. And their name is Rowan. Rowan, introduce yourself.
All right. Thanks for having me. My name's Rowan. I'm a 19-year-old filmmaker from Colorado. I do directing, writing, producing, cinematography. I haven't really narrowed it down quite yet. But yeah, I go to CU Denver for film, and my film, This Much, is out on YouTube now, so you can go watch that.
I love me a good CU Denver alumni. Well, you're not graduated yet, but CU Denver student.
Almost alumni.
Almost there. You're
Fingers
gonna be.
crossed.
Yeah.
Hopefully she'll make it. I know you will. I have hope in you.
Slow crawl to the finish.
Honestly, yeah. College life.
Yeah.
I am curious because I love being on Auraria campus and being in, just downtown. And I saw that in one of your films you used the location. What's it like working with like all sorts of students like everywhere?
I mean, it's a lot of fun because people will throw out their ideas like, oh, I used this for my short film, and they were like, all right, we'll use that too. And I mean, we all just help each other out, and so it's kind of like a big community where you kind of throw out ideas and people catch them and throw out their own ideas, and it's like a big mixing pool, I guess,
Yeah.
of people.
Interesting.
Creative, so yeah.
I am curious because Hunter, you went to CFS.
I did. So I want you to know right now, we're going to have a big old tussle
Yeah.
at the end of this podcast
Team
today.
Denver.
Teams TFS. I mean, I'm
Absolutely
repping
not.
Aurora. You sure you want to fight me?
I mean, Denver's got a lot of strong people too, so
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree too, and that's why we had you come on the show today. Not only because you represent some of the cream of the crop coming up from UCD, and we love This Much, your short film, but we think you're going to be a really diverse voice for us today. Not only because you are the classic girl in a film program, and you make lots of different films, you do lots of different things. You are the consummate film student, but you are someone who also helps support other people. So what are some things that you do at the UCD campus that, help empower all sorts of voices so that when you're on the film set, everyone's voice is heard and everyone can make the best movie?
I think a very important thing to remember when you're on a student film set or even most indie film sets is that most of the time everybody's on an equal playing field. Like, even if you're a director, you should be talking to a PA eye to eye, because it's those kinds of people that really help your film like come together. And so, when I'm on campus or when I have some extra time on the weekend, I try to help out wherever I can and lift up everybody's voices.
That's awesome. Well, and as a woman, you understand what it's like to be in a male-dominant industry. And I'm curious, because you said there's a lot of support in CU Denver when it comes to, women in film, and, what you've seen while you're starting to really branch out and, get familiar with the industry.
Yeah, I'm surrounded by a lot of strong, creative women at CU Denver, and I'm really happy to be there because we all lift each other up, support each other's ideas, get feedback. You know, when a guy is being annoying or something, we're like, you know what, don't deal with it. You're a bad boss or whatever. So,
Yeah,
you know.
stand up for it
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, that's awesome. It's good to have a voice all over as far as ethnicity and gender and everything like that.
Mhm.
So I want to bring up the film that you talked about, your short film called This Much,
Yeah.
which is a very heartwarming film that you made based off of your relationship with your mom. And I'm really curious, like, what led you to making this kind of film? Because it's not easy for people to put themselves out there like
Yeah.
that in this kind of story. And it's almost like you're healing
Yeah.
with the girl, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to emphasize on that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's it. Pretty much exactly what it is. You know, I was like 18, coming into womanhood, and you know, around that time, you just really empathize a lot more with your mom or the other women who helped raise you or whatever. And so that's really what helped me write the film, because it's pretty much based on my mom and her struggles raising me and my brother. My brother isn't in the film, but it's not about him, whatever.
It's not about him.
I'll
Yeah.
make my next movie about my relationship with him,
He'll be the villain.
like you are in every other situation, Dylan.
It's close. His name's Evan.
Oh,
Oh, that was really close.
Yeah. Good guess. But yeah, it's like forgiveness, empathy. You might mess up sometimes, but as long as you're trying your best and you have a lot of love for your kid, that's really what matters in the end. And so that's really what I was coming to terms with at that time.
That's so sweet.
well, it's really amazing to see someone with that much depth come from someone so young. And, you know, there's lots of a raw emotional talent in this movie. There's lots of feeling emotion. Like I call that feeling emotion.
Yeah.
When it feels kind of young, when I feel like when a feeling's very young and you're taking it and you're letting it grow in different ways, and seeing that in This Much is kind of interesting because it's only a short amount of time, but it really dives into the subject so deeply. And that's really when I saw it, I was like, this person's got to be on the show. This person has to be. What
Yeah.
was the process of getting to that emotion on set and in writing that really brought you to the final draft of the script and the final version of the movie?
I was really trying to emphasize the subtext of the film, especially through like dialogue and action, because the character might say something that they don't necessarily mean or that's kind of close to what they actually feel. And I really tried to make that come out through writing and directing, especially with working with a little kid. It's like really difficult, even if they're your little sister. It's like, "Argh."
Oh, is she your little sister?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
That's
Yeah.
so sweet.
Yeah, kind of drew on my own resources there. I don't think I would have been successful with somebody that I wasn't related to, just because of all of the contracts and because I could be her guardian on set and all of
Oh
that.
yeah, that does make it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, that's an interesting relationship to have with a main actor. On my most recent movie, we just wrapped up on Sunday of all days. Me and Julia finished it. We finished the movie, but we had 4 different child actors, and it was a lot of work trying to make not just the relationship with the parents work, and they were all excellent. I should say that right now. They're
Yeah.
all excellent. Everything went great, but it's a lot of work getting these different people together and then trying to make this relationship with this kid happen,
Yeah.
especially if you have a short amount of time. What are some tips you'd give to other directors in regards to that?
Draw on like their own interests. Like my sister didn't really know what it's like filming or acting starting out. Like this is her first time doing any of that. And she's really into dinosaurs, like really into dinosaurs. I'll tell you any fact about any dinosaur. And so I was showing her like behind the scenes clips from Jurassic World, like, oh, the dinosaur wasn't a real dinosaur, it was a robot dinosaur, and that's how you make movies, and just trying to, do that and motivating her with Oreos on set. And
Ah, yes, language every child understands. Bribery.
yes.
Quality sweets on set. That's what you need with kids.
Yeah. And me.
And she's your little sister, so you don't have to worry about like how many Oreos you pump her full of. You
Yeah.
can just hand her back to mom afterwards.
Yeah. Other tips I might give, a lot of visual things. You can't just tell them like stand right there, stay right there. You have to put tape on the floor. Or one tip that I heard from YouTube is if you have a big pot, have them stand in the pot, and then they won't move. Hopefully.
Oh, because I see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's almost like a Sims hack.
Yeah. They're just trapped in the one block room, one tile room.
And then just do a profile and
Yeah.
then call it good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's really interesting. I don't think I really had that same kind of like depth of knowledge of working with kids until I started to see what they were really interested in. So, until they started picking up the Goosebumps books that were around my apartment,
Yeah.
I don't think we ever had like a connection. So, but you were working with your sister. Like, what
Yeah.
do you have like little languages that you built together as a family?
I mean, I like know what she likes and I know what her limit is, and I know like what she likes to talk about, when she likes to talk about it, and so I just tried to use that to my advantage, I guess, like when there's some off time, maybe try to talk to her about that kind of stuff that she likes
Yeah.
and just keep her mood up.
Keep her
Yeah.
activated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And focused.
Yeah, it's just like at home, you just have a camera pointed at you and 5 other people staring at you. No big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I am curious because just like the time in which you made the film, becoming an adult, and I really like that concept because I went through this too, where you don't understand certain things as a kid, and then you become an adult, and then you start being an adult, which is difficult. So that empathy that you kind of emphasized, does that have a lot to do with like you getting? Like, are you living on your own? Are you working on and doing school? Or is it just like being responsible for your studies that's kind of like put you in this mindset of, oh wow, being an adult's like not easy?
Yeah, around the time I was writing it, I had just started like not living at home, like I was living for myself. I had a food plan, but I was like shopping for myself, buying laundry detergent for the first time. Which there's surprisingly a lot of options for that apparently. So yeah, more of just like that transition into being an adult, and I guess the sort of like shock value that comes with that, because when you're a kid there's like so much cushioning around you kind of against the world, and all of that just suddenly is gone the moment you turn 18, it seems like.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like one thing that got me was that I had to buy toothbrushes. And like I was like, oh, this toothbrush is really old. I think I should get a new one, or I'd make things last longer than they probably should have, And I was like, well, my mom would always do that. There's little things that our parents do that we just don't recognize until we have to do it ourselves. So that's a fun concept to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the first time that I opened a container of beef in the fridge and it was there for too long. I won't tell you what it smelled like, but I've made horror movies that smelled better than that.
I don't know. Maple syrup and blood is not the best.
Oh, come on. Those are fresh materials you're dealing with. There's never an expired thing on my set. And that is entirely because of that moment with that ground beef. That moment when I was 20 years old and it was ground beef in my apartment reeked.
Yeah.
It was like a bomb going off.
Yeah, I'd assume there's a lot of food on horror sets used as special effects, like Night of the Living Dead, they use like chocolate.
Yeah.
blood.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
I
what we
use
do.
chocolate all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get really sticky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable.
Sticky, gooey.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
maple syrup reference, we actually like used it to spread on walls. To
Oh, wow.
what was the grim or whatever?
Is grime.
Grime.
For making the walls grimy. My recipe for making walls grimy, if you want to make them gross and disgusting, don't use more chocolate syrup. You need that for the blood. And you can, they're too close to colors, but maple syrup is about the color of what it looks like if someone's been smoking in their apartment
It's
for
actually yeah.
30 or 40 years.
I mean,
Well,
it's pretty good. It looked
yeah.
good.
Well, what's your recipe for then getting that off of the wall?
It's palm olive oil. So they don't pay me, but they should, because
Yeah.
I use many bottles of palm olive
Yeah.
dish soap to really
Sponsorship.
fix everything.
We are not sponsored by Palm.
And palm olive, if they use palm oil, bad. But you know what? Here's the thing. It gets it clean.
Yeah.
I will say this right now. There's nothing on this planet that cleans things faster than palm olive. I've used a Swiffer on like cabinet doors trying to get like the Swiffer juice to like clean it, and it was like 3 feet above me. No, I just put palm olive on a stick and it just fixed it. But that's your we'll trade fake blood recipes later. We can
Yeah.
we have some serious questions to ask you, Rowan.
All right.
These are serious things.
Very serious.
All right.
Very serious.
Are you ready
I'm ready.
for game time?
Game time. Okay. Maybe I should have stretched.
Game time.
Maybe we'll give everybody like armbands so they look like they're gonna do an 80s training montage.
Yeah, we could do. Like the bag.
I do some calisthenics.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Rocky? He'll just punch meat.
Okay.
What are you doing? That's dinner, Rocky.
Little beef.
Yeah.
He's tender, making it tender.
Well,
Ready for cooking.
well, Rowan doesn't have to worry about that. She doesn't have to worry about any Rocky montage because this one's all about teamwork. Big thing about CFS. Big thing about any college you go to. Teamwork's important, right?
Especially in film school.
Especially in film.
Especially in film school.
So we recognize that today, and we have some classic buddy movies that we're going to chat about today. So first question is about one of my favorite cult classic bad movies. It's a Sylvester Stallone movie. It's called Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Okay.
So Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Sylvester Stallone. He's a cop.
All right.
What's the problem? He has to work with his mom. Who's his mom? One of the Golden Girls.
Okay.
If this movie were made today, it would make $1 trillion. But in 1992, it did not. So Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Okay.
Which Golden Girl is Sylvester Stallone's mom? A. Betty White. B. Estelle Getty. D. Dorothy Zobnak. Or is it D. B. Arthur?
I'm gonna tell you right now, I have no idea. I've never seen this movie. In honor of Betty White passing, I think I have to say Betty White.
Okay.
Don't do that.
Don't?
Don't.
Okay.
All right. You can pick A for B. So she was A, and
Okay.
you just go down. We'll cheat you through this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were the other options? again?
B for D.
C. To
C.
C.
Don't pick C.
C is for cookie.
C is for cookie and teamwork.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with C. Don't pick C.
Don't pick C.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh. Oh my goodness.
B.
B. You're correct. It's Estelle.
Oh my gosh.
It's Estelle Getty.
Hi.
So B. Arthur's mom is
Okay.
also Sylvester Stallone's mom.
Okay.
So when they're in Florida, she's hanging out with B. Arthur, and when she's in Philadelphia, she's shooting bad guys with Sylvester Stallone. It's a fun movie.
Yeah, it
Check it
sounds
out
fun.
sometime.
Mother, son.
Yeah, some mother-son
Yeah,
action.
yeah.
Mother son love.
Mother-son love. So Rowan, that's awesome. You got the first question absolutely correct.
Oh, yeah.
I would have chosen
Oh,
Betty
me.
White, but that's just because it's the movie I would have loved to see.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we have to tell you, you have to stop and get all these questions right, or our moms will shoot.
Oh. Okay.
You
right.
out of the show.
They do always sound vaguely threatening when I start, and then you have to like pull it back a little, don't you?
A little, it's how we work together.
Yeah. I think 2 episodes ago it was like I said to one of our guests, we're going to sharpen the knives, because it was all slasher movie trivia. So if you don't get these right, we're sharpening the knives, and you're going to be like, to pick the locks to get him out the door.
Yeah, it's a good dynamic.
It's a good dynamic.
Well, I mean, sometimes you just have to shut me up completely. So we
Yeah,
both have.
sure. But, that happens to everyone. You have to actively make sure I don't get a felony charged against me.
I might as well be your AD, honestly.
Oh, anyway, somebody should mean. All right. So your next question is
Yes.
about the show, The Nice Guys. Shane Black directed this movie, and Ryan Gosling breaks his arm early in the movie.
Okay.
Which arm does he break, his left or his right arm?
The left.
It's actually a trick question.
Okay.
Because it magically heals itself. But the problem with that movie is it has one continuity error, and it's that the cast on the arm changes.
Oh, no. That would bother me so much. I
It
hate
bothers
that.
me.
I
a
hate
lot.
continuity errors.
That's okay. Here's your last question.
Okay.
So you got
So
one
she
wrong.
was right.
Kind
Well,
of.
you can't put a trick question and not give a right answer.
You know what? It was one of the
Well,
arms.
one.
So I'll tell you what. So she was half correct. So it was one of the arms.
Okay.
Rowan, here's your last question. Are you a fan of the show Men in Black?
Yes.
Then you're gonna
The
love
movie?
it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a cartoon too, but
Okay.
I'm not asking you about that.
All right.
I'm gonna ask you about everyone's favorite Men in Black agent, Agent M.
Okay.
Who is Agent M? So there's Will Smith, there's Tommy Lee Jones, but there's a special Agent M, and they're in a cameo for the movie. They talk to Rip Torn, and it's someone incredibly famous who desperately wanted to be this, and they also wanted to be Spider-Man. So that's your clue.
Okay.
So who was that person? Was it A, Betty White, B, Ryan Gosling? Was it C, Michael Jackson, or was it D, Donald Trump?
I think I know who this is.
Agent M.
Michael Jackson?
Correct. It is Michael
What?
Jackson.
I
Yeah.
thought it was Ryan Gosling.
No, Ryan Gosling is in a whole bunch of other movies, but he was not during this one. So
Michael Jackson.
Michael
wanted to
Jackson.
be Spider-Man.
he actually tried to buy Marvel in the 80s to become Spider-Man. That's the sole reason he wanted to own Marvel Comics was like so he can make a Spider-Man movie about himself. But he couldn't get that done. So what he settled for was when they were making the Men in Black movies, he begged and begged and begged Barry Sonnenfeld, the director, let me be Agent M in the movies. You can put me anywhere. You can make any cameo you want, but I have to be an agent in the movies. So they shot him against some penguins in the Antarctic, and he's like begging Rip Torn, like, listen, I can be Agent M. I can be Agent Michael. So Rowan, worry not. You are a certified agent of Support Local Film.
Good
You
job.
did excellent.
Good job.
And if you've just tuned in, we have Rowan here with us. She is an excellent filmmaker for the short film This Much. And when we get back, we're going to be talking about what's next. Hey, welcome back to Support Local Film. If you're just joining us, we have Rowan with us. And, you know, it's that time of year again. Every other year, we have that big election coming up in November. Maybe you and your parents aren't talking right now. Maybe you're like me and you have a strict no politics and strictly the weather diet for your conversational topics when it comes to your relatives. But Rowan, you avoid that policy altogether and you jump right in with
Yeah.
your new documentary. It's called Cloud. Why don't you tell us about what that's about?
So Cloud kind of explores the relationship between me and my dad, particularly how our political differences have kind of affected it, and starting to explore how political differences affect family relationships in general. Less about who's right and who's wrong, and more about just how those kinds of things can affect family dynamics.
And what have you been your findings so far?
So I'm structuring it kind of around how he around his garden because he really likes gardening and doing things with his hands like that. And so I interviewed him in the spring when he was planting it, and I'm going to start interviewing him again in the fall during his harvest. And hopefully there will be a kind of change in between then and now.
Interesting. I like the metaphor there where it's like, oh, you're planting the seeds and letting it grow, you know? So that's pretty cool. I like that.
I like it. I've noticed with the older generations, it's kind of tough because, again, with seeds, some bad seeds get in there and it's bad information, bad policies, bad things that, from our generational view, we don't understand how they got there. So since this is a personal story for you, how do you feel kind of trying to weed your dad's garden here?
It's definitely hard. I mean, it's hard with any documentary, getting to the core of your subject, how they really feel about something, how they might act in front of a camera is like different than how they might act in everyday. And so, I mean, that's what I think is helpful as like me as a daughter being the filmmaker, the one holding the camera. So it's more like he's talking to me and sort of bringing that out a little bit. And I think I've kind of really started to do that. So I'm excited about it.
That's fun. And I always think it's interesting because we were just talking about like information and how we get information, and how like that's changed a lot over time. Like, and I feel like a lot of people like on our generation, we are more like we're gonna learn from other sources, whereas like maybe your father and my mom were raised more by their parents and more trustworthy for certain people. How do you think that like impacts like relationships between these different generations and like the information being so accessible now versus less accessible back in the day?
Yeah, there's definitely like a lot of information. Like if you want a certain answer about something to push a certain narrative, you'll be able to find that answer or some piece of data that sort of sounds like you're correct. And so when you're arguing with somebody that you might be close to that disagrees with you, it's like, well, I'm right, I have this evidence, and they're like, well, I'm right, I have this evidence. And so it's kind of really hard to kind of break through that and find even ground.
Right. Well, and that's another thing is like compromise. Like how do we like find a middle ground? How do we look into this together without like drawing boundaries? But like what Hunter likes to say, he has a hard no when it comes to politics, and sometimes I'm that way too because of how emotional people can get.
Yeah.
But is there ever a time that you felt where your dad's more open to like look into it together and be open-minded on both ends to come to a different conclusion?
We're still working on that. I think maybe, hopefully, that's something I'll be able to record towards the end of the project. That's kind of how I'm envisioning it so far. But there have been like little bits and moments like that where we find common ground that I think I'm starting to work off of.
That's awesome.
Well, Rowan, you know what it's really going to take? Teamwork.
Yeah.
It's going to take teamwork. Yeah. I do think that with any dynamic, it's really about what both sides can give. So I'm really hopeful for Cloud. I can't wait to see it. And I'm, of course, am excited to see the harvest and when your dad's vegetables come out, how nice that'll be. But until then, Julie has some interesting questions for you.
I do. This time, I feel like this tied into the documentary pretty well. There's this thing called Silly Debate. Have you ever done anything like that before?
I think she's had plenty.
I think
I feel like she'd be good. You'd be really good at this. So I have a couple topics here.
Okay.
And I think I got one that kind of ties into us talking about information and just like the excess amount on internet and everything. Are smartphones making us stupid?
I'm like in the middle on this one. I don't know how bad I can argue it. I think like yes and no, because on one end we have all of the information in the world at our fingers, and I mean that one sentence right there can be argued on either side because on one end you know a lot of things and on one end you're not actually like learning yourself. It's more like
Right.
a crutch, I guess. So you don't have to depend on books or your own head.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I've talked to like older people about this, and they're like, "No, it's definitely making us stupid." Because
Yeah.
there's one who's like, "I had to memorize the manual in order to like fix a car or something," and I'm like, "I see the value in that, but I don't
I
know."
think
What do you
that's a waste of time. I think the internet and our phones are making us faster, which is my
Yeah.
brain works fast, my hands work fast, I type fast. Now I look up information fast. I don't have to drive to the library and pick up a manual for a 1999 Subaru just to figure out how to replace an alternator. I can just look it up today,
Yeah.
which would help if I can't drive it.
But the question is being faster better though? Because like then we're
Yeah.
like stressed because we're doing way more than anyone could have done like 2 decades ago.
Yet to be determined. What's the next question?
well, it comes to the point where I find myself like on my phone on my calculator, like I don't know what 30 plus 54 is. I don't feel like doing that in my head. I'm gonna calculate it, you know.
That's also another point. Another point, Hunter. I mean,
No, that's just brain fog. If she took out a pen and paper, would we be criticizing her for being like, "Oh, you can't add in your head"? No, she'd be solving the problem of brain fog. So
Or it's
the
because we're
calculator
doing
just
too
does it
much at
faster.
maybe we're doing too much at once. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know, Julia. Sometimes you have trouble figuring out which one's your left and which one's your right. Are we really?
There's nothing wrong with doing this. Okay?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the calculator.
Okay, next question. Let's talk about dancing. There's a theory out there that dance is not really a sport. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's hard to define what a sport is. I feel like this is the age-old kind of debate. Like, should cheerleading be in the Olympics? Like, I don't know.
That's a good question.
But I think since it's exercise, it gets you perspirating, it gets your muscles, gets you more flexible. And it can be competitive sometimes. So yeah, I think I would consider it a sport.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think, Hunter?
No. Dancing is recreation. Sports are things I don't like to do. All right. Next question.
Okay. Being really tall is being better than really short.
I don't know. I'm right in the middle. I'm like very average as far as height goes, so I don't think I can argue either side. I guess I'd say tall, but not like egregiously tall that you're like hitting your head on doorways.
Yeah, I've heard of that struggle
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
But I think tall in general.
it's
better.
it's better to be tall.
Yeah.
I would disagree. I like want to be able to not have to get down so low for certain things, you know?
I don't know, Julia. You live in a tall man's world.
I guess the grass is greener on the other side. So.
Yeah. The world is built for tall people.
It's built for tall people.
There's so many things on the top shelf for a reason.
Okay, I gotta film one that I think is gonna be,
Okay.
and
Okay.
we'll end on this one.
All
Okay.
right.
Is continuity important?
There's a hierarchy of things that you can consider during a film. I mean, emotion and story always comes first. And so, when you're making a film, those are the things that you should prioritize over which which arm the cast goes on,
Yeah.
And so that's my opinion. I, of course, try to keep continuity as much as I can, but, you're on set, you're moving fast, you're trying to get all the shots, you're trying to get everything done. You just gotta prioritize
Yeah.
everything.
I think I know Hunter's response to this.
Stop asking about it. Why are you causing me problems?
It just bothers me when we can have continuity. you
But we
know?
can't. So stop bothering. And when we cut the movie and you see it and you're like, ah, man, all those little things that only I noticed. Man.
I do like the Easter egg conversations, though. Those are fun.
Well, I'm excited for all the Easter themed things we will get in spring 2023 when we get Cloud from Rowan and we get much, much more content. So, Rowan, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
Yeah.
Happy to have a CU Denver student over
Not
here.
quite alumni.
Yeah, CUD.
Oh, you know what? We've had per capita many CFS guests.
Yes,
So
I
we
know.
had to get one from your side too.
We had to.
Oh shucks, you want a tussle, Rowan?
Take it outside.
Yeah. All right. So we'll cash Rowan outside, but until then, no matter where you are,
No matter what you're doing, stop doing it and support local film.
and it doesn't matter if you're starting at the very tippity top of Fort Collins, going all the way down I-25 to the border of New Mexico, taking a fun little picture, then sprouting out wherever you go in Colorado. Stay creative, Colorado.